I'm rewatching Seventh Heaven. Please, just listen to the plot of this episode I just finished. It starts with the dad, who's also a pastor, and he thinks that our country's in moral decay because people don't know the words to the Star-Spangled Banner like they used to. Like, white Christian problems of the 90s. But then Mary, the second oldest, steals a glass from a local diner because she has to prove herself to her basketball team. But then the dad finds it and he's like, well, what's this glass here? Like, oh, here he is, the glass police. So the oldest, Matt, takes the fall for his sister and says he did it. And the dad's like, well, then you better march your butt right up to that diner and tell him you stole it. Like, this man's parenting skills, he's just trying to get his kids in more trouble. So then Matt's like, I'm so sorry, sir, I stole this from your diner. And the owner's like, oh, I'm pressing charges. And then Matt goes to jail. A prison over a glass. So then later we're at the trial, Matt's trial for a stolen glass, and the dad is like, Matt, I just want to let you know, I'm on your side on this one. Like, oh, gee, thanks. You got me into this mess. But then Matt gets off the hook because all these student athletes barge in with all the shit they've ever stolen, and they're like, are you going to arrest all of us? And the judge is like, oh, fuck no. Like, I don't even want to be here. Case dismissed. I'm rewatching Seventh Heaven. There is an episode where Mary has to struggle with natural energy boosters. It starts with her older brother, Matt, who is given these energy pills at school. His friend's just like, hey, take these. In what universe are teenagers giving away full bottles of pills? Like, who has the money? Later at basketball practice, Mary's teammate pushes the same herbal supplements on her. She's like, if you want to be good at basketball, you've got to take this echinacea, girl. Then Mary and her teammate play basketball, and they are rolling so hard on ginkgo biloba.
I feel like I could play all night. 2 pills are better than 1 and 4 pills are better than 2.
Established, this girl is a maniac. But then the dad finds the pills, and he's a pastor, so he loves to get in everyone's business. So he visits the teammate's dad, and he's like, you're a bad dad. And the guy's like, aren't you a predator? But it's too late because the teammate has a heart attack in front of Mary after she takes a handful of pills and washes it down with like Fruitopia. As she's getting loaded into the ambulance, there's this stupid moment where both of the dads lock eyes and don't say a word as to say like, oh, the pastor was right. Don't even make this about the supplements. That girl had no self-control, okay? It ends with Mary and her mom and her dad sharing this triple hug as the ambulance rolls by, and they all have this look in their eyes like, that could have been you, Mary, but your dad's a pastor. I'm rewatching Seventh Heaven, and this episode I just finished is absolute nonsense. Simon's friend has an older sister. Her name is Karen, and she is in a gang. Matt is the oldest, and he is getting gang vibes from her. So he's like, what's on your belt? And she's like, it stands for baby girl. And he's like, sounds like you're in a gang. Matt pulls his parents aside, and he's like, guys, Karen's in a gang. And they're like, makes sense. Makes sense. So the pastor dad can't mind his fucking business, and he goes over to the house, and he's like, your daughter's in a gang. And they're like, Karen? So then the three of them search her room for gang stuff, and they don't find any. So they're like, okay, she's not in a gang. And the mom has a talk with her, and she's like, hey, don't be in a gang. And the girl's like, you don't know nothing. And they look for gang stuff under the younger brother's bed. Not the nunchucks. Her parents are like, we found your nunchucks. And Karen's like, I'm in a gang. And the pastor's still there for some reason. Karen tries to leave the gang, and they beat the hell out of her. And the pastor's in the hospital room, and he's like, I could bring you somewhere safe. And they're like, shouldn't you be in jail? The huffing episode of Seventh Heaven is off the charts. Simon's teacher offers him an extra credit opportunity where he can stay after school and help these boys paint a mural. These boys are grade A huffers, all right? They are huffing good. Look at them. They're on that good shit. They're on that Benjamin Moore. But the boys don't trust Simon.
What do you want to bet Camden's a spy sent in to bust the whole operation?
Now, I'm not a detective, but I'm pretty sure you don't need a spy to figure this one out. Later, Simon sees them all huffing, just like out in the hallway. This kid gets a bloody nose, and Simon's like, let me get a teacher. And the kid's like, no, I've been huffing, you dumb virgin. The kid eventually gets hospitalized, and Simon waits by his bedside until he wakes up. Like, you've known him for 3 days, relax. And Simon tells him, you're already in trouble, so you might as well just rat out your friends. I'm not exaggerating, this is literally what he says. And the whole time, the pastor dad's just like watching through the door hole. Like, that's my boy. And they're like, didn't you touch kids? I'm rewatching the faith-based 90s TV show Seventh Heaven, and this episode with the drunk aunt is so good. Aunt Julie is the pastor's sister, and she's staying with the family for Thanksgiving. Watch how she greets them.
You're still way too good looking. You've gotten even uglier than your dad. They're way too good looking. You're also gorgeous.
These two are definitely related, no question. But Julie has a drinking problem, and she starts doing alcoholic stuff. Sneaking into the liquor cabinet late at night to have a drink, like she's in a Folgers commercial. She knocks over her purse at church, and everyone's like, oh, you klutz. But not the mom. The mom's like, alcoholic. But then the turning point is when Simon takes the key to the liquor cabinet and is playing a game with it. She's tickling him, she's like, give me that key. And he's like, no. And she's like, give me that key.
Simon, I'm not. Give me that damn key. Mommy!
So the whole family's like, oh my God, Aunt Julie's an alcoholic. What do we do? And the pastor dad is like, we are going to put her in a room and not let her out. So on like the 4th day of Aunt Julie being a kept woman, Matt switches out with his dad to watch her. She's all like, Matt, it's your girl, Julie, you know me. I just want to know if I can get a tiny little beer. Can you just sneak it up? And he's like, I don't think I can get you a beer. And then she goes feral.
Get out, you spineless little brat! I hate you, you hear me?
I'm with Julie on this one. Like, if this guy had me locked up in a room reading the Bible to me every day, bring me the sauce. Julie gets better. She decides to go to rehab. And before their Thanksgiving dinner, Mary's like, can I give you a makeover? And the family is floored. They can't even recognize her. I get trying to be supportive, but let's not lie to her. Like, her hair is in a braid. I'm rewatching the faith-based TV show from the 90s, Seventh Heaven. There is an episode where Simon uses the middle finger. Oh my God. Simon is the youngest son. He's hanging out with his friends after school. Watch what happens when his mom sees him flipping the bird. Busted. The mom is livid. Like, she says it's like one of the worst things a human being can do. And Simon has a meeting with the principal the next day. Simon has a chat with his dad, who's also a pastor. And the dad's like, I really think you should take a break from those boys. And Simon's like, I really think someone should take a look at your hard drive. Then he has to have a chat with his older brother, Matt, about using the middle finger.
That guy stuff has nothing to do with being a man. A man stands up for himself and the people he loves.
You're doing too much. It's too much. This family needs a real problem. Then Simon meets with the principal, and she suspends him for 3 days. In the car, the mom's like, look, that principal's a bitch, but you can be so much more creative than a middle finger. She's like, be worse. And then they have this moment where they hug it out in the car, and he's there. Like, what are you doing here? Like, go away. I'm rewatching the show Seventh Heaven. I just finished an episode where they try to trap a bulimic girl. All the Camden kids are sitting together at lunch, because of course they are. And this girl's like, oh, there's Shelby Connor going to vomit up her lunch. And Lucy's like, let's trap her. I'll invite her over to study algebra. We'll feed her dinner and then wait. Lucy's like, Shelby, hey mama, do you want to come over tonight and study and maybe like, just girly stuff. Shelby comes over for the entrapment dinner, and Lucy's like, do you want a snack? And Shelby's like, yeah, but I need to go to the bathroom. So Lucy runs downstairs, and she's like, oh, Mary, I offered her a snack, and then she went to the bathroom. Babe, I don't think that's how this works. And the mom's like, oh, what are we talking about? And Lucy's like, I just want to see if Shelby's on that 3-finger diet. And the mom's like, Lucy, I've smoked pot. Dinner, Shelby is scarfing down her food. And Lucy's like, oh yeah, she's gonna taste that twice. Shelby goes to excuse herself, and the mom meets her outside of the bathroom. And Shelby's like, you think I'm bulimic? And the mom's like, I don't know, maybe. And she goes, well, I was just brushing my braces, you dumb bitch. And she explains that she's just really hungry because her mom's welfare got cut off. She knew Lucy only invited her over to see if she was bulimic, but she was like, hey, a free meal. Lucy's playing checkers, but Shelby is playing chess, okay? And we learn our big lesson. You never know if a girl is bulimic. She just might be poor.
I've smoked pot.
This whole episode is so deranged. Matt is given a joint by his friend in high school, who's gotta be pushing 40. It falls out of his jacket, and the family dog, Happy, picks it up and then drops it in front of the dad. His family is so lame. Like, even the dog is a snitch. And the dad goes on a witch hunt. Mary's eyes are red because of allergies, and he's like, oh, are they now? Matt's eating cookies, and he's like, oh, why are you eating cookies? And Lucy has been listening to reggae music, and he's worried about her dating a Rastafarian. And this is him. And his name is Rod. This is when the mom tells the dad she smoked pot, and he is such a baby about it. He's like, how could you keep this secret from me? And she's like, really? Me keep a secret? Jared Fogle? Dad holds a family meeting. Matt confesses it's his joint, and the dad is unhinged. He says, this is why you've never been able to hold down a job. Like, dude, he's 17. So Matt runs off, and the parents are like, let's just go to the church and like pray a little bit. But Matt is there, and he's having the most convenient outer monologue. He's like, dear God, I never smoked that pot, and I never will. And they hug, and they're like, we're Christians. You need to hear how dumb this episode of Seventh Heaven is. The oldest son, Matt, doesn't have a date to the prom. So his sisters are hoping he doesn't find one because they want him to ask one of them. I really hope he asks me. Like, that is your brother. The mom's like, girls will be girls. Then this random man shows up at the church to talk to the pastor dad. And he says, I know your son, Matt, doesn't have a date to the prom. He needs to take my daughter, Connie. Like, why are these adults always in the kids' business? Then the pastor says this.
All I can do is ask. You know how teenagers are. They never want to do what you want them to do.
Yes, officer. This man right here. Matt agrees to ask her, but there's something about Connie that he's not telling his dad. Connie is the promiscuous girl at school. She is getting around. And this is Connie. This is Tori Amos going thrifting. This is the 5th member of Bewitched. So Matt asks this scandalous girl to the prom. She's like, I can't go. I don't have a dress. And he's like, that's fine. My mom will make you one. The prom is tonight, by the way. So Matt's like, Mom, make a full prom dress in 1 hour. So she rips the living room curtains right off the rod, and she sews this girl a whole goddamn dress from her curtains from Siemens Furniture. So Matt and Connie are at the prom, and he's like, why are you letting everybody hit it like that? Connie's like, well, my mom's dead, and we have no money, and this is how I cope. And we get our big lesson. You never know why a girl gets around. She just might be poor. Just finished an episode of Seventh Heaven where someone has a big, filthy secret. Wait till you find out what it is. $2,500 is missing from the church bank account, and the Reverend Dad's trying to figure it out. So the Reverend calls Lou, the church treasurer, and his wife picks up, and she is acting so weird. Like she's being held hostage. He's like, Mama, where's the dough? And she can't even speak. She's like, oh, oh, oh. So he meets with the treasurer, who admits that he took the money and he's going to give it back to him tomorrow. The pastor's like, what'd you need the money for? And Lou is like, none of your business. The pastor's like, everything's my business. And Lou is like, I will call Chris Hansen. So the mom and the dad start speculating on what they think the problem could be. And like true Christians, they're enjoying it way too much. So they're like, let's show up at their doorstep tonight, unannounced, and confront them. They catch them red-handed with a secret autistic child. They've been keeping him hidden, an off-the-grid autistic son. The state home closed, and they needed the money to get him into a new home. These two, they're like, oh, we're so sorry. We have 7 kids, but none autistic. And then we have our big lesson. You never know why a church treasurer steals money. They could just have a secret autistic son and be poor. This episode of Seventh Heaven with white thugs, please. Matt sees his younger brother Simon hanging out with these local baddies, and he's very disappointed. He's like, baggy clothes? The Beastie Boys? This is the leader of the group. His name is Norton. Norton slaps Lucy's butt at the record store, and Simon won't stick up for her because he's terrified of Norton. Then the mom shows up, and she's like, what's going on? Like, where'd you come from? And Norton's like, look at this hot, fine piece of meat. And she's like, excuse me?
You don't belong on the streets. Because you got no respect for me. From no man.
Uh-oh. What's she gonna do?
Want a piece of this? I brought 7 kids into this world. I can take one out.
He didn't know who he was messing with. She smoked. Then back at home, the pastor dad has a real problem with Simon.
Where'd you get those pants?
You know where you're going if you keep wearing your pants like that? Prison.
Well, that's where you should be. But then Norton takes it way too far when he harasses Matt's deaf girlfriend. Like, why is this so awkward? He's like, hey, you're gonna apologize to my mother and that girl who's deaf. But it's too late for Norton because the cops come and take him away. This is a little dramatic, no? Like, you'd think he stole a glass from a diner or something. This episode of Seventh Heaven is outrageous.
Hey, look what I found.
Simon finds a homeless girl on the street and he brings her home
Can I keep her?
to keep her as a pet. And when Simon's talking to his dad about it, he's like, she's my dog now, right? And the dad isn't even like, no, she's a person. He's like, well, we'll see. So they clean her up. She will not speak. And Simon and Ruthie, his younger sister, have this conversation about her like she's not even in the room. They fight over who gets to have possession of her, and Ruthie calls her it. So Simon starts training her by showing her which rooms she can go into and giving her treats like she's a goddamn border collie. And then the dad starts just working at the police department.
All of these are missing children? Just the ones we haven't put on the computer database yet.
Oh, we know why you're there. So the girl's dad stumbles into the police department and he's drunk and he's like, where's my Sarah? And they're like, who are you? Can't you tell? He's from the same homeless makeup department. Learn that Sarah's dad is not homeless, but the pastor dad and the cop just break into his home. The pastor's just like, I want to see how poor he is. So the dad comes home and he's like, Simon, watch this. Her name is Sarah, and it just like unlocks her. She can suddenly talk, and she is an exposition machine. She's like, yes, I am Sarah. My father is very sick. He has alcoholism. It's been very hard since he lost his job a few years ago, and then my mom left. So then the pastor dad goes to their house at night to clean it, but he does it to teach his oldest son a lesson. He's like, if you don't follow a righteous path, this could be your future. There is an episode of Seventh Heaven where Matt stops to help this pregnant girl on the side of the road, but she's a teenage runaway carjacker. And this is our rough and tough girl on the run. Like, she just went shopping at Delia's. After Matt is stranded with this girl's car that won't start, the cops show up, and Matt's like, oh, thank God, this pregnant teenager just carjacked me. And the cop is like, nice try, buddy. That car you have there is stolen, and you're coming with us. Then the Reverend Dad just, like, joins the police force to track down this girl. He's not going to pass up spying on teenage girls. We learn her name is Teresa, and she's a runaway, and the car that she stole was her parents' car. So Teresa stays with the Camdens for a few days so she can see how much they all love each other. It's so cruel. Matt's like, I love my silly, goofy mom. And she's like, well, I love my silly, goofy son. They're like, oh, look how much we love each other. And you're just a pregnant teen with a criminal history. Teresa ran away from home because she said her parents would disown her if she ever got pregnant. So the Camdens invite the parents over. They're like, surprise, she's pregnant. And the mom's like, look, kids are tough. Mine don't even separate the colors from the whites when I ask them to. And then they're like, you're pregnant? No, we're disowning you. And then they leave. But all the Camden kids have been watching the live abandonment from the stairs. And they use it as a lesson. They're like, we should separate our whites and our colors. I'm rewatching Seventh Heaven, and this episode is so bizarre. The Reverend Dad is supposed to be watching his senile father-in-law who set the backyard on fire. But the pastor would rather be at the hospital because he loves lurking in the hospital for no reason. So he passes the grandpa off to his youngest son, Simon. So Simon's driving very slow with his learner's permit, and these cops start tailing him. So the grandpa's like, hit the gas. When he does, the cops think the car is stolen, so they put their sirens on. And then the grandpa's like, whatever, don't pull over. So Simon doesn't, and he's now on the run. Like, there are multiple cars following him. And this car chase is big news. Like, every channel in the country is televising it. And look at this car chase. This has to be the slowest televised car chase ever. And everybody is watching it go down like it's OJ's white Ford Bronco. And then the pastor dad just pulls up in a cop car next to Simon. And he's like, Simon, pull over. And Simon's like, shouldn't you be in the back seat of that thing? So Simon surrenders himself, and he looks up at his dad, and he's like, oopsies. The dad's like, oh, you. And then we get our big lesson. You never know why there's a slow-speed car chase. The show writers might just be out of ideas. Okay, Lucy Camden, let's unpack some of this trauma of yours. Let's start with your family. Did they have any substance abuse issues?
My aunt was an alcoholic, my sister was hooked on natural energy boosters, and my brother had a baggy pants phase.
God, that is disturbing. What about your dating history?
Well, there was Jimmy Moon, and then there was Ronald, who was, and Rod the Rastafarian. Rod was so clingy, though.
You can't just drop by. You have to respect the fact that I'm in a serious relationship with an older man, and he wouldn't like this.
I didn't know where else to go. My mom died.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. No, that's really sad. You have an ex-husband, Kevin, here. Do you want to talk about him?
I mean, he was jealous of my own brother who was delivering our baby.
You better not be looking at my wife. Kevin, I'm a doctor. You're her brother. But I'm a doctor. I hope that doesn't mean what I think it means.
I see why you divorced him. But it says here you think most of your trauma comes from your mom.
Yes.
Why?
She smoked.
Oh my God, this family is so messed up.